out there.
Mike
and Ken are out there. Hey, if you got this part of the video, you've got the live unedited edition, Home Gadget Geeks, August 2nd, 2018. If you're listening to this any other time than that, it just means you've caught us recorded. I don't know how you did, but you did. And hang tight. We're going to get started here in a few minutes. A few minutes of pre-show, and then we'll get the show started. If you're joining us live, we want to thank you for coming out. I see a few of you popping in there. I see Mike and Lopta and Ken. Guest 61. I think that's probably you, Edward. Did you come in as a guest? Okay.
I did.
Did I just out you? Do you need
no. I'm trying to figure out how to change my name.
If you choose if you log out and then when you log back in, choose the guest account and then just take the name out.
Got it.
Put your name in when you do it that way. And assignment. He'll be back next week. It's a busy summer. Are you taking some vacation, Edward, or have you got some coming up? Hopefully, maybe.
No, I kind of took some days to do some stuff around my house, so it wasn't really vacation, but I got some stuff done. So
I think we're gonna sell next year or so, and I've been starting to fix all the things we need to fix, and I've got some steps in the front of the yard that need the retaining wall needs to be replaced, and the steps need some mud jacking to lift them back up. So I'm going to get an estimate and get them to mud jack it. And then I'm taking some time off here in a couple of weeks. I'm hoping to then lay the stone. It's wood right now, and I want to change it over to concrete block for, decorative concrete block to match the house.
It's wood on the ground?
It's wood. The retaining wall are the big, they're 20 years old and they're just rot. They've just rot through. So my vacation, I'm hoping I'm going to at least get that started. And the foundation is the hardest part. And most people put stone block down on, they'll put some stone down and then they'll pack, stone dust or limestone dust to create a really hard surface. But the blocks always shift. They just always shift. And so I've come to put a concrete footing down first and then glue those blocks and you bury the concrete footing so you can't see it, and then put the blocks on top of it. And then you just glue them down, and it just really, really holds them well. So I'm hoping the weather holds up warm or cool wise. You're sitting outside. It's a nice evening, right? I mean, we've had some great weather here in Omaha.
Yeah, it's been nice.
Yeah. So I'm hoping the weather holds up for me and I can get some of that done while
I think you've got time.
I think so. Yeah, before winter sets in. All right. Let's see. Ken says hello to you, Edward.
Yeah, I saw that.
Guys, we'll get started here in just a minute. If you're coming over or you're listening from the Burst group, welcome. Glad to have you over here.
So where do you chat with the Burst folks at?
Discord. It's a Discord group. Yeah, it's pretty good. I didn't use Discord up until I joined this group. And I've had some Home Gadget Geeks listeners ask, like, start a Home Gadget Geeks Discord. I'm like, I don't need another thing to check.
Yeah.
No.
Well, how would it compare to Chatwing then?
Well, Chatwing's just for the show. In theory, I could probably in Discord do all of this. In other words, have a channel that is just for the live show and then channels for everything else. And in theory, do away with the Facebook group. But
a lot of people are moving. I've got I didn't like it either. Now I've got 7 of them that I barely ever check, but I've got 7 Discords that I'm in now.
Well, that's the problem. And I've gotten a bunch of crypto Discords that are a mess. I just don't want to go in there. They're awful.
Yeah.
So Ryan had contacted me. Kirshner had contacted me the other day. He was like, I would love it if you would do a Discord channel and for the Home Gadget Geeks. I was like, oh, no. Facebook is bad enough. I'm on Facebook all day because of work. So that works out pretty well. I just don't want I don't need another Twitter, or you're just checking it all the time. I just don't need it.
Can you hear? We should have audio before the show, but can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay.
Yeah, you sound great. So yeah, I'm just a little. I'm a little hesitant. I probably will give in. I'm not gonna lie. I'll probably give in. And I got to figure out if Discord would allow me to, one, can I have a Discord chat room that's open to everybody, that, you know, you don't have to create another Discord. That's the beauty of Chatwing, is you can, you know, Chatwing will basically take anybody or a guest. So it's super cross-platform. Or you can sign in with, you know, Google or Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or, you know, any of those. Discord's probably even one of them. You can log in with. So I don't know. So, guys, welcome. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the live show. Good to have you out here. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. And you speaking at I think Heartland Developer. You wouldn't speak at the developer conference, right? You usually do Infotech.
No, so we do have, and we could touch on some projects. I don't. I can leave out details, but so we do have actually. I mean, that's, well, we'll jump ahead to the update, but I mean, we do have some projects going on. So our preview the update, we do have some projects going on, which is exciting because, I mean, that's what, you know, we've been working on for years to get to that point, and I didn't know if the industry would ever, or if Nebraska would ever get there, and so that is pretty exciting.
Cool. Yeah, save it, and we'll talk a little bit about it here on the show. So, all right, guys, thanks for coming out tonight. Let's make sure everything's running the way it should. It looks like it is. Hey, if you're listening live, can I get a quick sound check and a quick video check? How's the video look? And I want to make sure it's not choppy. I've got, ironically, I'm doing some burst plotting right now on a PC that's running the video. And I'm like, do I really need to pause it, or can I let it run during the program? It is running off of 2 GPUs that are completely separate from the system. So, I mean, they're in the box, but I'm not using them for video processing. And so I'm kind of, everything else runs off CPU. So, okay. Thank you. Nick's Ops. Like that. We, and welcome. He's one from the burst.
Cool.
The burst. And I think local, right? Nick's Ops, are you? No, I'm thinking of, there's one in the group called, his handle's Chuck Norris, which you can't go wrong with Chuck Norris. He's a local Omaha guy.
All right.
So yeah. Okay. Let me do this thing. Let me get the show notes up. Nick's is out in California. I'm just going to call you Nick's, if you don't mind. Nick's Ops is kind of hard to say. All right. Let me do this thing. Here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 364, recorded on August 2nd, 2018. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska. Literally, with Edward tonight, a smoking good Bellevue, Nebraska. Of course, we post the show with world-class show notes each week out at the AverageGuy.tv. Don't forget, you can join us live on the mobile app if you're traveling on the road, in a train, on a plane, those kinds of things. The mobile app is really the best way. Edward, I'm super jealous that I am not smoking that cigar right now. I should have taken it. I should have taken this to the deck. I'm just saying. I got to figure out how to do this for my deck. If you are listening on the mobile app, really best way to listen live. You can get access to it. They're both free. Android and iPhone, both free. HomeGadgetGeeks.com, and the best way to listen when you're on the road. Don't forget, if you're an Apple Podcasts and you're using it that way, rate, review, subscribe. We haven't had anybody do that in a while. It'd be nice to get some of those ratings out there, so maybe some new ones. So if you head out there to do that. Google has some way to do it as well, except they're monkeying with their apps, so we'll get that figured out. But we appreciate any feedback that you give us. Normally at this point, I introduce Mike Wieger, and I tell you that we are going to be doing a crypto in the post show. But today, lots of crypto. But don't leave yet. Like, I know some of you are like, oh crap, he's doing a crypto. We're not gonna. This is not about coins. Although we'll talk a little bit about that. It's not about prices. Although we'll talk a little bit about that. Brought Edward on here again, and you know him. He's been on a ton. And Edward, welcome back, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited, and yeah, got lots of updates. And I think the last one, my notes said. Well, I have notes from December. Was that the last?
Although
was there one in between that?
I think we did. I think in March we did a December one when everything was super hot, right? And then like the bottom fell out. And then I had you back on in March, like, what's going on? You know, and so we, of course, it's been an interesting and bumpy ride. If you're in the coin market and you're doing those, it has been an interesting and bumpy all over the place ride. Bitcoin has certainly been leading the way as far as prices, although as I've been watching, even though I said we weren't going to talk about this, I will say if you've been watching what's been going on, we are seeing some separation of some things, which is kind of interesting. So we'll save that conversation maybe for a little bit later. We want to catch up, Edward, with you a little bit. We have some new folks, though, who have maybe joined, who haven't heard any of those interviews that we did with you back in March, December, a couple years ago. I think the first time I had you on, Bitcoin was maybe $200 when we first started talking about it. And I've admitted openly, I had no idea what you were talking about at the time. But we've watched that thing do its stuff. But Edward, give us a quick update on you, your position, your role, what you do in the company, those kinds of things.
Sure. So since we last talked, I've finally pulled the ripcord, and I was in IT for 16 years, and now I'm fully out of that, doing all crypto and financial service work. So we now have 8 kiosks, and so 1 in Omaha, 1 Lincoln, 1 Fargo, and then there's 5 that are in Omaha that are the financial services kiosks that do other stuff besides just Bitcoin. And we've also launched Nebraska Mining.io, so we are hosting ASIC miners for folks, and done a few currently working on a few blockchain development projects for different individuals and companies. And what else? Working on some payment processing stuff as well. So that's what I've been up to recently.
Okay, couple magic words that you said in there. Financial services kiosk. We're familiar with the ATMs that you have. We've talked about those. Jones Brothers here, the one in Lincoln. But tell me a little bit about these financial services kiosks.
So the one the Bitcoin only kiosk, which is what we have now, is just you buy and sell Bitcoin on them. There was probably for the past 2 or 3 years, I knew we were always going to launch a Generation 2 kiosk. And so these are not just buying and selling Bitcoin. Actually, they're only buying Bitcoin at this time. But you can do traditional, using traditional ACH, regular financial service. You can do bill payments. You can buy Amazon gift cards. You can buy international top-up for your cell phone. So it's a much different demographic. My theory, or what we're validating in the field right now, is that if we put these out there, the Bitcoin users and that demographic will come to them for the Bitcoin, but we're putting them in places more high traffic in terms of cash-based users.
So where I'm assuming they're here in the city of Omaha. Where
so
would
we
I
have
find one?
2 in Cricket stores. So Cricket Mobile. So that's obviously serves a similar demographic. And then we have 1 at La Guera in 24th and F, is a Hispanic grocery store. And then we have 2 in laundromats. One's 24th and L, and one is down in Bellevue, actually down near you. Anytime Laundry down in Galvin. It's like 505 North Galvin or something like that.
I'll have to swing by and check that out.
Yeah, so you can't. So we're actually turning on the Bitcoin functionality this week, and actually you're gonna pay more for Bitcoin at those locations than you would at Jones Brothers. But obviously we're competing against ourselves locally. But as we expand into other markets, we'll be able to place these, and we'll be the only Bitcoin game in town, hopefully, in some of these locations. So
yeah, be able to. How's that conversation go with those business owners when you're talking about these kiosks?
So the idea that, for the Cricket store, it's pretty easy. If you're a Cricket store and somebody could come in and pay their Boost Mobile, or somebody could come in and pay their OPPD bill, then that's just another reason for them to walk in the door, and you have a potential sale there. Or if there's a line at the counter, they can go over and pay at the kiosk, and then you have a happier customer than if they had to wait. So, the laundromats is just, the laundromats is because they like the idea of the Bitcoin. And then the grocery store is potentially they would save money for their customers compared to like a Western Union to send money to Guatemala or somewhere, and then they save money and they potentially make more revenue on the transaction than traditional Western Union type services.
Yeah, and so these are taking U.S. dollars right into the ATMs, and you can pay any of these services, the cell phone, Western Union, any of those services. But now a Bitcoin functionality on top of that, right? So I could also go in, use that, just buy Bitcoin, get a printout, right? It's kind of how it works, right?
So if somebody doesn't want to, obviously I would, if I could do it all again, I would tweak things up a little bit, but we would potentially put the Bitcoin ATM out in the West Omaha Jones Brothers location, because right now it's pretty close to all these other kiosks. So we would have on one side of town, you could go to these kiosks if you didn't want to make the trip out to Jones Brothers West Omaha. So that's how, as we expand, that's kind of the angle, is we'll have maybe still some regular Bitcoin kiosks, but we'll have these in the parts of town where we think that will get the most traction. So
yeah, might as well, right? There's other transactions that need to be taken, and they're financially lucrative. And Nick's Ops in the chat room says he thought at the grocery store that was taking it from a Bitcoin perspective. Have there been some discussions about being able to take and transact for retail items at the Bitcoin level?
So that's the one project that probably can talk the least about, but yeah, that would be the payment processing. And I see that more for not necessarily store in-store retail. I don't know if it'll ever. The closest you'd get to that would be something like I think Coinbase has their debit card, or some of these debit cards that you could use using a traditional terminal at the checkout, which doesn't really accomplish much except you can spend it's pretty traditional. It's not, I don't know, I don't think of it as really doing a QR code Bitcoin transaction, because it's still using the swipe card and still kind of boring. So
still kind of boring, just like the market right now. Nick Stops also says he's out in California and they're working with a store. Same idea, except it's burst based. So we're a big burst community. We talk about it all the time. But I love this, that you guys are really in this downtime. I'm actually seeing and hearing about more interesting, the last time 6 months ago when we talked to you, wasn't even that, 5 months ago when we talked to you, we didn't know about these financial services kiosks at the time. I don't think we talked about them. You were just thinking about, or you just moved to Fargo and put the third ATM in. But I'm hearing more and more of these leaking out, where it's a shot at, okay, let's get a physical box in a location. How are we going to do transactions? How are we going to make this work? How are we going to get people to really kind of buy into this? And where does it make sense? Early days, lots of crazy stuff going on with it, right? I'm sure you're seeing. What are some of as you've had these kiosks now, roughly how long have you been operating these kiosks in these places?
I probably didn't mention it because I've been working on this, like I said, for like 2 or 3 years, and it always seemed like they were eluding me. So I kind of stopped talking. I even stopped thinking they were going to happen, because anyway, so they finally did. But we've had them since June now. We do roughly, using on the traditional bill pay, and typically at the Cricket stores we do about 20 to 30 transactions a day. And now we're seeing people pay other bills besides just Cricket. And other than that, we don't even have, we're still going through some regulatory hoops to even get the money transfer on. So the functionality that we were talking about with being able to send money to Guatemala, that's not even turned on yet. So it's kind of frustrating, but we're just keep plugging away, and eventually that'll get turned on, and then we'll see how people deal with using a screen to go and do their transaction rather than going up to a counter. And so the cool thing is, if you with all this stuff, you can actually queue up the transaction. Again, I don't know if this is going to be our users, if we can train our users to do this, but you can actually queue up the transaction on your phone, and then all you do is go to the store and you just put the cash in, because the transaction's all queued up. So, yeah.
When you think about transferring funds down to Guatemala, Nicaragua, Colombia, whatever, right? When we think about South America, I'm assuming today, is that, well, you said that wasn't turned on. Is that going to be a Bitcoin play, or is that that's a Western Union kind of traditional? Are you hoping that could be at some point lead to lead to more where they're, you know, they're just in like, hey, you're doing this to Western Union and paying this. You could be doing it in Bitcoin and not be paying those transaction fees, right? Can you do that, or is that, you know?
Yeah, the problem is really you rocking the boat. You don't want to, you know, then you've got to train their grandmom in Mexico City how to create a Bitcoin wallet, right? Whereas right now she can go to the local Walmart and get the money there by just going up to the counter. And so we don't have any control over the other end of the transaction. So I'm not going to even try to get them to have their grandma install a wallet. So
sure.
And so, yeah, I think the Bitcoin is going to run. I mean, the main reason for the other financial services is to get the Hy-Vees and those folks to have a Bitcoin kiosk in their shop without really having a Bitcoin kiosk in their shop. So,
no, right on. I mean, it's a gateway in, right? If you can provide those financial services for those individuals in a way that makes sense, and I love the app of, I can queue this up and just pop in and feed it in. We, for a lot of folks, maybe a lot of our listeners, we aren't kiosk users, but there's a huge financial industry around people in a cash only or a heavily cash basis.
Yep.
All those neighborhoods that you talked about here in Omaha are lower income neighborhoods where it's cash is king, right? And you're providing that service to be able for them to get that money on ramped and either sent somewhere or used in some way or pay those bills in some way. Those also customers aren't as comfortable just paying all that stuff online. They would actually rather come in and use a kiosk. Go ahead. You're going to.
We've had people tell us that, I used to drive all the way downtown from North Omaha to pay my OPVD bill at the OPVD office. And so now they can just pay right there and save all that gas and time. And that was the primary reason for doing this, is to get them some time and potentially save them some money. So
it sounds like you're getting some pretty good foot traffic on those kiosks. On those, do you have some numbers set of where you'd like them to be, and are you tracking it in a way to say it continues to grow? Do you have a feel for that?
So the goal is to have 100 transactions a day across the five kiosks, and so we're hitting that in some locations and not hitting that in the other ones, and so it's just a matter of finding the locations that are going to work. But I mean, we're on track for that, but we need to find maybe some different better locations. So
you have. Well, you probably can't talk about that. I'll stop. I'll stop going down that path. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's shift gears a little bit. You guys are in the blockchain business. Mm-hmm. Bitcoin happens to be an outcome of that. Talk to me a little bit. I ask you this question every time we do this, but I'm more interested in what are the interesting things that are going on with the blockchain, as opposed to, because if the blockchain thing doesn't work, doesn't matter what we do with these coins. Doesn't matter how many we mine. Doesn't matter how many we have. If we don't find viable, valuable uses for them on things that really matter, the whole thing kind of falls in on itself. Or we just keep trading coins with each other at 0.001 cent per coin. What are you currently seeing on the blockchain, and what's interesting?
I think we are seeing a lot more. It is becoming a part of conversations that you don't have to explain. That's kind of where I see us at right now, is that people are accepting it as a part of life, and that, for instance, you could talk about maybe just the logistics industry of, the idea that you could finalize the transaction from the time of drop off. I think we talked about this a little previously, of like, I think those things are actually coming. We're actually seeing some products built where people are saying, well, if I drop this semi truck full of stuff off to you, I could pay you the same day, essentially, and I don't have to go through all this paperwork process. As the other things begin to be digitized, why can't the transaction, the final payment, be digitized and nearly instantaneous? So the other pieces, there's one of the projects we're working on involves creating, and we had another blockchain event here in Omaha a few months back, and put on by the chamber, and I assume they're going to do one again next year. But they and even like with the Nebraska Mining Center, of like, it's another way to bring in as we grow, potentially bringing some businesses or some business from out of state or out of Omaha into the Omaha area. And so we're actually seeing some potential economic development rewards in terms of the local economy, which is a good thing. I mean, that's a positive, and that's what drives interest. And from folks like the Omaha Chamber, because that's their goal as well. So secondary markets, one of the things that was talked about there was an energy exchange of people building apps like for green energy projects, kind of like, I won't say carbon credits, but the idea of, can we invest money into green energy projects and use some sort of token or blockchain to settle those transactions, so that as I bring in sun to my solar panels, I'm selling that to the grid. Well, you guys all chipped in 15 grand to buy those solar panels, so now I can pay you near instantaneously or automated. I can get those funds back to you fairly quickly, and you get rewarded for the solar panels that we all bought together as a community. So that kind of stuff is interesting and actually happening. So those things are pretty cool.
You mentioned payment transaction in the group, and I think when we think of Bitcoin and the blockchain, that's probably the most common use, or the common uses that we're thinking about it. When we saw Bitcoin race to almost 20,000, it kind of broke and couldn't handle that, and that was even that wasn't even that much traffic, and a lot of so there's been a lot of technology that's been thought about, that's been talked about, that's been forked into some. Everybody's like, we're faster, we're lighter. Is that true? Like, from what you've seen of the various coins that are out there, that the various blockchains, are we getting better with transactions? Are they getting faster? Is it improving?
I think the problem is there's too many. Like, we're just too early in that arena to say anybody's going to be the winner. There's obviously, if you look at CoinMarketCap or whatever, there's a laundry list of all the coins that are out there, and it's just, what's the compelling reason between Burst or Nano or whatever other payment type coin. And so I think at some point, as time goes on, in regards to that, we'll start to see some stratification in terms of these, and I know it already exists, and I recognize that, like Neo and Ethereum, those are coins that you develop programs on, right? But they are people don't recognize them as that yet. They see them more as like a way to trade and make money, right? Not necessarily other than, now I'm saying all this because my point being is that the top 4 or 5 are still the top 4 or 5. Everything else is just speculation in my mind. And so there's not a clear winner in the payment space. I think a lot of when you say it broke at 20 grand, I think some of that was sabotaged by the Bitcoin Cash folks. So I don't know if it actually should have broken. And so I think I was telling somebody the other day, as far as the strategy goes, I mean, we're still the old, at this point at least, I'll say, don't buy all the way up to 18 or 20 at this strategy necessarily, but like, I think we're at the still $100 a month, or 150, $200 a month, just averaging in. I think at this point, you're in for a little bit of a ride up the ladder. Potentially, if it does what it's done over and over again historically.
Yeah, you mentioned a little sabotage, and I think for some people, this is everything that's wrong with the blockchain, is that we're supposed to get a financially secure system that works, and it's open source, so it should work all the time. And yet we see, even in the Burst network, we see these shenanigans, right? We see these things going on where you're like, oh, that shouldn't happen, or you shouldn't have one user that can cause a fork by doing something, right?
Yep.
I mean, don't we need to be concerned? I mean, it's early days, but before these things can be really people can take them seriously. I mean, I'm having a situation right now with the Burst wallet where I just can't even get it loaded on a PC here at my house, and I'm pretty good at this. But the new versions of the wallet are not working very well, and so I chuckle every time I do something like this, because I'm like, okay, yeah, we can't have grandma do this. We can't, like, if I can't do it at times, there's going to be other people who can't. isn't that a problem that these blockchains are still not resilient or robust enough to handle those kinds of things?
But will it be any different when we have Fed coin put out by the Federal Reserve, right? Like, is that the trigger that everybody will just make it work at that point because now we have Fed coin? And so I think that is potentially coming in the next, I don't know, 2 to 5 years. And so then at that point everybody's gonna be like, oh, we'll figure out, we'll work out all the kinks, right? Because we have to be in this space. But at that point, you also have the Fed controlling their Fed coin, and so then everybody will feel safer that they can switch out between Bitcoin and Fed coin really, really easy, and then everybody will be happy and it'll be a normal part of life, right? But it's just that one last little thing. Like, as soon as that happens, then people basically stop griping and start using the things. So
yeah. Well, we'll see. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, you're all right. Your grandma cannot handle crypto at this point. That is true.
It's not really realistic. But and don't get me wrong, I'm not against her. This isn't a negative thing. It is one of those things that reminds me. It's like when Bill Gates was at a big at CES and he was demoing plug and play, and he plugs in a scanner and the thing blue screens, right? And you go, oh, maybe Windows isn't quite ready for prime time, right? Now, fast forward 20 years later, right? And we're okay. For the most part, it's on a billion devices, right? And so I think we've got some time. Let me get to a couple questions because I've been ignoring Nick Ops. I'm gonna just call him Nick's. I like that better. Said in the chat room, what's the next Nebraska event for blockchain? You mentioned that, but when is that? And what do you look forward to maybe over the next 6 months? What are we doing here in town?
Yeah, that is a good question. For the most part, I've gotten out of the events game. It's just too much. I don't have time. I don't have the bandwidth for it.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you have a billionaire. You have maybe the world's richest man kind of trying to shut some things down, right?
Well, yeah. So yes, the next is not blockchain specific, but so the next I think I've kind of just been like, okay, Oma Chamber, you do the annual blockchain thing, and we'll do the annual Bitcoin thing, and I'm fine with that. And so yes, May. The first weekend in May, we'll try Bitcoin Day Omaha again at a different venue. And that will probably be the next thing we actually do. So
good. Yeah, not that Warren Buffett actually got in the way of it this last time, but there's chances already did.
Yeah,
which is super interesting. Let's see, what else do I need to get from? Oh, one of the things I wanted to ask you. So you mentioned this up front, NebraskaMining.io. Yep. When I was at your office, I don't know, 6 months ago, you guys were just starting to set this up, right? The ability to host ASICs. Yep. And at the time, there wasn't any there. But I look at the pictures, and unless you're making things up, it looks like there's a bunch there. So where are you at with that?
I intentionally did not take stock photography and stick it on our website. I wanted it to be the real thing. So yeah, however, all those miners are not ours. They are in our facility. We currently are hosting for about we've got about 5 customers. We've got about 94 miners at this time. And so yeah, we're onboarding people at a fairly steady pace. That was launched in June actually as well. So it's been a rough couple months, but the only stipulation is we have a minimum of 5 miners. You can send us yours, or we can buy them for you, and you don't have to touch them. We take care of them for you. You'll have VPN access to administer your own devices, and the price is $125, but it's tied to the Bitcoin price. So as Bitcoin goes up, the price fluctuates a little bit month to month, but then we have a solid cap on that, so you're not continually writing up the price.
So the advantage is you're getting business electricity rates as opposed to residential rates, right? That's the advantage.
So right now we're working on a few things, not necessarily just in Nebraska, that we would potentially get even cheaper rates. So for us right now, our we can increase our net revenue by if we can get cheaper electricity, and so we're pursuing some renewable sources and some off market sources where we can get some cheaper electricity. So yeah.
How are you guys viewed in the building there? I know, it's
Oh, that's not where it's at.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, it's not there. No, it's not there. No, it's a industrial type site. So,
yeah. Okay. Undisclosed location.
Yep.
We'll just put it that way. So you're seeing at this point, you're still seeing folks buying ASICs and getting actively involved, and it's still worth it to try and mine whatever you're mining at this point?
So I have the calculations. I have the break even calculated at around somewhere, we'll say 7,000, somewhere between 6 and 7. So
at your electricity rate, right?
At the price that my customers pay.
Okay.
Like as long as the price is around $7,000, they can they'll make money at the end of the month. Not very much, but I mean they make some money. And so
on an ASIC, getting power at your price.
Yes, right? Exactly.
Yeah. And typically, what's a kilowatt?
Well, our flat. So we don't charge for electricity. Our flat rate is 125.
Okay.
So you provide an ASIC, and we bill you at 125 a month. Basically.
$125.
Yeah.
Okay. Per ASIC.
Per ASIC. Yep.
Per ASIC. Okay.
Yep. And so a lot of what we're seeing, or we anticipate coming in currently, until prices get back up to 10 grand or something like that, would be people that have ASICs that are, for whatever reason, can't house them or don't want to house them anymore. They're tired of the noise, tired of the heat, right? So, so that's we don't necessarily see folks buying, buying for this purpose at this point. Hopefully they will, but so yeah, I mean the part of the issue, or part of the idea, is just like you're hedging Bitcoin, is that you're buying the ASICs now because the price of the ASICs is going to go up as the price of crypto goes, or price of Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash goes up. Is that when the price gets to 10 grand, the Bitcoin price, the ASICs are going to be, whatever, 1.5 times the price that they currently are now. And so, so buying ASICs now is a way of getting into mining cheaper than if you do in 6 months or a year when the prices goes back up. So I don't know if people realize that necessarily, that the price fluctuates with the price of Bitcoin, but obviously when you're sending the folks overseas crypto for their equipment, then you're paying the market rate essentially for that crypto equipment. So
what's a typical today an ASIC? If I was going to mine, get into this and I wanted to buy an ASIC, what's an ASIC running now?
Between $800 and $1,000.
Oh, it's not too bad.
But if we have we have 5 minimum, so you're going to be out about $5,000 to get into it. So
right. But what kind of returns are you seeing? Let's just say the market's in that 7 to 8 to 9,000. We haven't seen 9 in a while. It's been fluctuating between 7.5 and 8.5. What's the typical monthly on a $5,000 ASIC investment? What are we seeing monthly generally?
You're only going to make, I think this is what you're asking. You're only going to make a couple bucks a day on the ASIC. Okay. And so, but again, the idea is that when the price goes up, the equipment price goes up, and then it's going to be quote unquote too late to get into mining. The economics for the mining hardware will never really change. You're always only going to make, if you buy the ASIC today and start mining today, you're only going to make a couple bucks, right? But if you buy the equipment back in the day when it was cheaper, or excuse me, you're only going to pay it off at a certain rate. But if you buy it when it's cheaper, then you can pay it off quicker when the price goes up. So
Cyber Skulls in the chat room is saying, and I'll just paraphrase it. Yeah, but we have new ASICs coming all the time, right? That are making the old ones obsolete. So,
So I want to get I think it's GMO has their 7 nanometer. I was just reading up on those today, actually. And so that would be, but yeah, those are $2,000. So those are not the $800 S9s. And I don't know what Bitmain's going to come out with in terms of when they're going to have a smaller, an S9. Sorry, who asked that? S9 and ASIC. Yeah. So there's the main ones that I really don't want to deviate outside of the S9s and the L3s. Those are both Bitmain miners, and that's there's another company you could check out if you want it called Halong, and they have their Dragon Mint miner. It's a little more powerful, but it's a little more efficient, I'll say, but not very much. So we're talking the generational leap is the GMO 7 nanometer, and that is as far as I know, is sold out. I don't know if or where you would even buy any of those right now, but they would have been $2,000 if you could have gotten one. So.
Okay, so let's talk average guy mining. I don't have ASICs. I have 4 1060 video cards, right? They're still sitting in. I was mining for a while. I've shut them on and off, kind of based on prices and stuff. Is it worth it even for me? Residential pricing. It's the middle of summer. Is it worth it for me to even turn them on?
I don't see, not residential rates. No. What pool were you mining on?
We're using NiceHash right now, just because it's the easiest. It is, and it pays in Bitcoin. And I've seen some payoffs. I mean, in its heyday, those 4 cards would generate $10 a day at the best pricing, like back in November, December, January, right?
Yeah.
I turn them on today, $3, right? That's the 4 all
gross.
4, right? That's gross per day.
Okay.
No, not taking into account power. Each card runs, I think I figured 35 or 40 cents each a day is their power consumption, right? And so you're figuring in worst case scenario, you're making 15 or 20 cents. Best case scenario, I might be making, if things go crazy, I can make $1 each card, right? But I need to, I've been chasing it. I turn them on from time to time. One, I'm just interested in what's going on. So it's not like I'm necessarily trying to make money off this thing. I want to stay up to date what's going on with crypto. So I use it as a learning exercise. The reason I'm in Burst is to learn, right? Maybe someday there'll be a little money in this thing, but it's really to be part of a community and learn, right? So yeah, I keep them. I've almost sold them a couple times, and I'm like, no, actually, they're handy with burst plotting, so I'll keep them around. Having 4 around, it's not bad, right? Keep them around. But you're saying no, I should never.
What cards are they?
They're 1060s. They're GTX 1060s. So NVIDIA, not very powerful, but not very. They're a nice, kind of in between power hungry and no power, right? Mm-hmm. They're kind of in that sweet spot.
Yeah, I don't. I agree, and I've gone through quite a bit of all the economic modeling of, not all, but quite a bit of economic modeling as far as and I agree. I mean, I think that most probably the average user, unless you can get industrial rates or can mine at scale, that buying in is probably just as effective or efficient, because I mean, a lot of it's just the headache and time. It's fun to tinker with, for sure, like you said, but for most people, you're probably, just the other day or today I was talking to somebody that I help with their stuff, and they we were talking about just the long-term strategy is just average in, and that's wait
we talked about that years ago. You and I talked about dollar cost averaging in as a way to get, before I even bought these cards. And if I had, I did the math, by the way, and I've told you this before, but if I had, that would have been a $60,000 or $70,000 correct decision.
Wow.
Now, that's assuming I sold at the best possible time. It's easy in hindsight, right? It's easy to pick the peak in hindsight. So it's not really a fair comparison, but so no, I'm all for. In fact, I keep saying this. I need to just do it. I need to set up a kind of a direct cash $50 a pay period or whatever, and just buy that way. That's just the smartest way if you're going to get in on this. John is saying, well, still, even with my 4 cards, that's maybe $50 or $60 a month. That is kind of dollar cost averaging. It's a little less than that because I'm paying for some power. In the summer here in Nebraska, it's really hard for me to have those cards on when I'm cooling the house, So I need to really move them to the garage, put them in a separate box and move them to the garage or something like that. But
part of the issue is that you have maybe it's not much, but you got, I guess it's like, how valuable is your time? How much do you want to think with these things? And then what happens when something breaks, versus if you just buy some Bitcoin, you don't have to worry about if something breaks, right? And so,
no, right on. Hey, banks, like we've always been talking, you and I, from the very beginning, have been talking about, the disruption of the banking industry and transaction fees and some of those kinds of things. Where do we stand today when we think about how are banks starting? How are the big ones? Has it changed at all in the last 6 months? Has there been any movement of their thinking about this? Have they decided maybe to try and get in on this as well, or what's going on in that space?
I think I think it's interesting. You're seeing a lot of negative news from the banks recently, a lot of negative opinions from, you know, the heads of the bank or the big, you know, kind of just like Jamie Dimon or whoever, you know, that kind of mentality. I don't think it necessarily matters, but the problem is that it just, you know, gives people a bad taste in their mouth, and then they potentially sell. It's more of a, you know, that's, I don't care about their opinion. I do care that it moves the market artificially, which is just silliness because they really have no clue what they're talking about. And so I think you see the but there's a couple, you know, you have the conspiratorial theory of like, is that, you know, the folks that are shorting it, is this a way for them, you know, Jamie Dimon's organization, to buy even cheaper Bitcoin or clear out some of their short positions because the price will go back down to where they need it to. So, or it's just, are they just trying to make sure people stay away from it because it's really competition and they're scared of it, which is probably true as well. And so it's frustrating hearing them because they don't have any skin in the game, right? So why even mess with us? Like, just leave us alone. But anyway, so banks are still not crypto friendly, you know, for 90% of the market, or 90% of the banks out there are not crypto friendly. And I think that it's good for Bitcoin ATMs, I guess, people that don't want to have their bank account shut down because they have a Coinbase transaction on there, right? And their bank just decides one day we're not going to mess with it. And I don't, long term, it makes the commodity more valuable, I think, if it's harder to acquire, meaning the Bitcoin, it potentially is a positive on the price from that perspective, but it's also a negative because less people can get into it. And so, yeah, it's, I think, again, until we see a Fed coin or something like that, I think we just need to learn to live with that. And that's, you know, but it seems like the past couple months, it seems they've been more vocal, or I've seen more news about that. And I don't know why, unless they're just trying to kick us when we're down or something, you know, like
Well, Nick's in the chat room is saying banks are buying bulk on the off-chain transactions, and he knows for sure that Merrill Lynch bought over $200 million worth. Back to my earlier comment about gaming the system, like, if you're not gaming the system, you're the one being gamed, right? I kind of feel that way sometimes. I'm like, man, if I'm not the one cheating, then I am being cheated. And what do we say? I mean, it would make perfect sense in the financial world to say, hey, there's a new thing coming. Let's ensure that we control this thing. We're going to buy, but out of one side of our mouth and bad mouth it on the other to get the absolute lowest price. Is that a acceptable conspiracy theory?
I mean, I think that's what I was referring to with the short positions and whatnot. Like, I think they're trying to make money on all sides. And I guess that is, if nothing else, we can take solace in the fact that that's positive for us. Even if they're not saying it out loud, that gives us a buying opportunity as well, I guess, is the point. Is that if we're bullish on it, if we want to be in it for the long term, then we're on the side of the guys that know how to game the system. That's good. So, but we'll play by the rules and do it the right way.
Yeah, so, it's Wild West, man. It's just so crazy. It is just it's a Wild West out there. Even in some of the Discord groups that I've been a part of, there's some interesting conversations that go on between groups, and because it's decentralized, it's going to be ripe for these kinds of issues. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying they're going to be there. And trust, you taught me this, like, trust is an important part of what we're doing here. If people can't trust this, it won't happen. It won't transact. It won't be available. And so we've got some work to do. I tend to think, sorry, I stuttered there, but I tend to think it's going to be a combination of open and regulated that's going to make it work. I just think for the average Joe, the average guy in America thinking about this, there has to be something more than just a bunch of guys running nodes and mining that are going to make this thing work, right? I think there has to be more to it. Now, I totally just pissed off everybody in that community. Hey, wait a minute, I'm doing this. But I know people. I was in the banking industry for 13 years. I understand the way people work. And I think it's just going to take a little bit of both. in some way? I don't know. Respond to that, Edward. What do you think?
I think you need to. I think there needs to be some chicken in the egg, though. If you're not the one buying it, or if you're not participating in the market, then who is going to, with the understanding or knowledge that the functionality or the solutions that we build based on that, even if it's a platform built on Ethereum, or even if it's a new can't remember what coin they were using, but a new credit scoring system in a country that, or mobile payments in a country that doesn't have, that's tied to a really crappy currency exchange rate. Those things are coming, and if nothing else, I think you can be a average guy and go the averaging in route, dollar cost averaging route, and that can be just a boring part of your portfolio for now, with the idea that in the end, decentralization and these individualistic type systems ultimately are going to come out ahead, and the banks are going to be playing catch up. So
yeah, certainly. Nix had also said, it's the banks, not like they haven't had their share of manipulating the market.
Yeah.
And right, I mean, 2008, 2009. A mess all created by our friends in the banking industry of really taking advantage of a system, and right or wrong, they are pretty good at this. And there is a lot of money. If I say I was going to dollar cost average in at this point, and way back in the day, we had Coinbase and we were doing it that way. Is that like, what's my best if I wanted to put 50 in and buy some Bitcoin? And I'm assuming Bitcoin is still the right way to go. John Biggs in our Facebook group had asked me, hey, Litecoin, which used to be number 3 from a market cap standpoint, sits at maybe at 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. It's gotten pummeled. Should I be looking at the top 6 and picking one of those? So give me some answers on that. How do I on-ramp this correctly? What's the right way to do it? The cheapest way, maybe, or the most effective way? Then what do I think about once I get there?
I'll turn this a little bit political, but one of my buddies, I'm not an anarchist by any means, but one of my buddies is, talking about how all the Wells Fargos and those guys, even just in the most recent incident where people were stealing, when Wells Fargo was opening, create new accounts, fake accounts, yeah, and there wasn't enough. Not enough heads rolled, right, and not enough, especially at the executive level, and so they're all well protected. And if you get into like the idea that eventually some of these folks will lose their jobs, maybe for some stuff that's happened in the past, or that the whole drain the swamp mentality of will some of this corruption be shaken out, then there is a potential where we would have an opportunity to play on a little more level playing field with the banks. But I think that's the same mentality of why people would potentially move away from banks, or don't trust the banks, even like you just talked about trust. Like people are losing trust in banks because they see stuff like that not happening, and so that's part of why crypto will potentially win the day. But yes, I think just, put your pants on one leg at a time. Don't do anything fancy. Open a Coinbase account. Link your bank account to it.
Coinbase still the right? So my Coinbase account, just move it in. I'm going to pay some fees, but that's okay. Is that the right way to do it?
There's nothing out there that's reliable enough or has the feature set that they have in terms of just a couple of clicks and you've got your recurring transactions. Sadly, as much as it pains me, they really have. There is a funnel there that everything crypto in the U.S. currently goes through a very small number of companies, and Coinbase is one of them. But they have, fairly trusting them. You could go to Kraken, you could go to some other exchanges, but they don't have the interface or the simplicity that Coinbase has. And so if you are concerned, I guess what I would say is then just go in once a year, once every 6 months, and drain your account, put it into something where you can control it, either a Trezor or something, where you have the keys, or even just another exchange, just to get it off of Coinbase's system, and then let another year go by, accumulate your $1,200 worth of Bitcoin, and then dump it somewhere else again, just to get it off their system in case something bad happens.
It's actually not hard to distribute. Speaking of distributed, it's not hard to distribute that around and have little bits, and it's not terribly expensive to do it that way.
Right.
I began to look into a little bit of the onboarding or the on-ramping, right, of those of US dollars fiat into Bitcoin. And you do pay some fees on Coinbase, FDIC insured. They got a great website. The functionality works great. I've actually, in moving around money between Litecoin and Ethereum and Bitcoin, I have not done any Bitcoin Cash, and maybe that's a mistake, or maybe not from what you said earlier. But that it has certainly been an easy system to be able to. I have moved cash in and moved cash out a little bit, not a lot, but for me, it looks, it is average guy. Coinbase has become a really solid average guy platform to be able to get on. So you would be okay with me putting 50 a month or 100 a month through Coinbase, dollar cost average in, am I going into Bitcoin at this point? Is that the smart call, the dollar cost average in Bitcoin?
Yeah. Well, at this point, I would advise, and I'm not a financial advisor.
Yeah, right but this point, we're not professionals.
Yeah. At this point, I would do Bitcoin. Excuse me. Depends on your outlook and your perspective. At this point, I would do Bitcoin and Ethereum. Litecoin is a little more of a
risky play.
Yeah, risky play. I would just do Bitcoin and Ethereum right now. But if you see Litecoin start to move, just keep an eye out for it. And if you see it start to move, I would certainly not hesitate to pick some up. Somebody asked what a Trezor is. Okay, so somebody asked if Coinbase is something you can install on a smartphone. The answer is yes, you can. The other option we didn't actually talk about, now that you mentioned that, is I have not used Robinhood, but you could also potentially use Robinhood as a way to go from fiat to crypto.
Right.
I've not used it, so I don't know what the interface is like. So, John Biggs, hold in there. You're
well, Litecoin was doing really, really well, and it's just it has just taken it in the shorts. But buy low, sell high, right? And so if you're thinking and you said this, right? If you want to buy something beat up, and you want to stay on the Coinbase, right? For those that don't know, Coinbase has 4 coin offerings that kind of standard on their network: Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash. They have been talking about other coins coming on, so we'll have to see who they decide to take on, or if they decide to take anybody on. But certainly, out of those 4, Litecoin has just taken it the hardest in all of this, right?
It could be the time to buy then, depending on how you feel about these types of things. But I would which, since you brought that up, the other, if you feel if you want to get a little feisty, then you could potentially buy the coins that Coinbase has talked about putting on their platform. You could capitalize on the fact that there's going to be a lot more volume potentially on those. I haven't even looked at the price to see what if the market's moved since they made those announcements, but you could buy Brave or whatever other ones they're talking about listing. No, Basic Attention Token. Yeah, it was Basic Attention Token, which is Brave, the Brave browser, and the other 2 or 3 that they've teased out that they're going to list. So if you want to go through the process of buying Bitcoin, go get on another exchange and then buy the coins that we're talking about. If you wanted to maybe ride the price up if it moves with Coinbase bringing them on. So I did want to address the Trezor. So part of the problem with Coinbase is that they own your public and private. They own your private keys, so they essentially have control over your funds, just like the banks do. You can move those into a wallet, such as Bread Wallet or Mycelium on your phone, or just the regular Bitcoin wallet on your desktop, or even like Exodus is a great wallet to hold multiple coins in. That's on your desktop. So I'll run through those again. if you don't want to hold your funds in Coinbase and you want to own your private keys, you can do Bread Wallet, Mycelium, or Exodus are all good wallets. The Trezor adds an extra layer of security to some degree because it essentially requires, or I may not describe this right technically, but it allows you to, it's basically like your key fob, like a UB key or whatever. It's a key fob that forces you to be physically present, or at least to have your device physically present, and you have to know the pin on the device to unlock your wallet. So rather than if somebody hacks your computer and your key fob is not plugged in, then they have no access to your wallet. So that's what a Trezor is. So it's just another layer of security. I think it's a little funny because it still has the same seed, the 12 key or 24 key seed, and so it's more, for me, I think of it more as a convenience thing than it is as a security thing, because at the end of the day, it's just as hackable. If somebody gets your 24 seed key, you're still out of luck, right? And so it's not like it's not a full stop on them not getting into your wallet, period. It's just a way to access your funds quickly, but still have your private keys. So
yeah, well, there are security risks associated with this, and there is if you have money in your pocket, or if your like your credit card gets compromised. I mean, I guess it really depends on how much money we're talking here, right? For a lot of folks, we're talking maybe hundreds or thousands of dollars. If we're more than that, yeah, then I think one needs to do some realistic, maybe some realistic safeguards to kind of make sure they're doing, for the average guy, again, because this is the Average Guy Network. For the average guy, I've got stuff. I've got a little bit on Coinbase, a little bit more than a little bit. And I'm pretty comfortable with its backing, it's the money that's there. You take that little bit and multiply it times 100. Okay, now I'm probably starting to think through, like, okay, at that kind of dollar amount, at $1,000. Okay, if this were to go away, not the end of the world. At 100,000, okay, that's kind of a completely different story. So, good, great comments. Sorry we can't read them all that are coming into the chat room.
Distracted.
Yeah, no, some great. It is, Lopted asked, why does this have to be so complicated? And it really is not that complicated. It's just a new system, new terminology, new things that we're thinking about. Really, if you think of Coinbase like the bank, and I know that kills crypto people when I say that, but it's really just depositing in different funds. Maybe an investment fund would be if you think of a Van Camp, is that
Vanguard?
Anyways, Vanguard. There we go. Thank you. If we think of those Vanguard, if we think of those kind of investment firms, right? You can take your money, put it in, and purchase these various funds. If you think of it in those terms, it's not terribly difficult. That you mentioned coinmarketcap.com. It's a site I kind of go to see how things are going. And I kind of look at maybe the top 25. Anything below that, it's kind of suspect, and really, Coinbase does carry the top 4 at this point. I think maybe they're not exactly the top 4, but they're pretty darn close, aren't they? When we think of Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash, they're definitely in the top 10. All those 4, right?
Yeah, there's actually, I don't know if I'm gonna. There's a site I came across the other day. It had the value of. Oh, I know where I can find it. Hold on one second. It has the values of the coins. They basically took out all the hype. It's got the here. Let me find it here. But it's basically because CoinMarketCap has obviously of whatever the market rate is, right? But nobody really knows what drives that market rate, and so somebody said, well, what if you took away all the hype, basically? What would the value of the coin be? So let me grab it real quick. Hold on. Let's see here. Sorry.
No, while you're finding that, let me say, Emily had put in the chat room, she says she started investing in index funds using the Stash and Acorns apps. I didn't understand you guys and your Bitcoins, but now I'm obsessed with watching the markets.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of, when you have a few dollars in there, all of a sudden you're like, ooh, maybe I should pay it. That's why I have what I have in the markets is because it helps me pay attention to what's going on. Otherwise, I wouldn't pay attention.
Yep. All right. All right. Here we go. So coinfairvalue.com. So
okay.
coinfairvalue.com is like the coin market cap, but supposedly without the hype.
Without all the hype, what you're talking about, the hype is the coin's value. You can correct me if I'm wrong. If all of them were owned, right? That's the market cap.
No, if what they did is they took some technical factors like Ethereum. Can it be easily built upon, or are the fees low to send the funds? Like, so they didn't look at it. They threw out the whole market value and just said each of these coins has these certain things, number of nodes or number of users or trading volume, and then they assign values to each of those things. So they eliminated any of the what the actual thing is trading at today, and just said this is what it should be trading at because of these certain things that we think are important. So
kind of analysis like we do in the regular markets, right?
Yep,
I mean, Apple. Exactly. Why is Apple worth what it's worth? Yeah. There's a whole formula, right? That
it's
goes.
Like, yeah, kind of like PE, ratio and stuff like that.
Yeah. So on that right now, as we're talking, coinfairvalue.com, Bitcoin's number. Let's just say it has USD in the euro on there, but let's just say Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, then Ripple, Stellar, EOS, and then it drops down. Litecoin, which we've been talking about, comes in at number 11 in that list. Some other ones, Cardano, Dash, which Tether, which is an interesting one all on its own because it's always $1, or it always holds at $1. You'd mentioned Neo coming in at 17. Binance, which is interesting because Binance is an exchange, and so this is a coin based on the exchange value.
Well, not necessarily, because you can actually when you're trading on Binance, you pay a certain rate for your trade. So you would pay 1% or 0.01% or whatever. If you use Binance Coin, they actually give you a discount. So it's a utility token to some degree where you have an incentive to buy it because you can use it to get discounted trades, which I think is pretty cool. So
yeah, out there. And let me say we did. So with my college and high school interns this summer, I wanted them thinking about blockchain and blockchain technology. And the fun part about this is the buying and selling. And when I was in high school, we had market contests where you'd get $1,000. You could invest it in the stock market. We'd track it on a daily basis and there'd be a winner. So I thought, well, let's do that. So we found this really cool site called Crypto Spaniards. Why Crypto Spaniards? I don't know, but it is Crypto Spaniards is a market site all about simulations. So let's simulate some market you can buy and sell and trade. It's a game. It's right. You don't put any real money in it. It's just a game. And so I had all my interns buy $10,000 worth of, or they started with $10,000, and we all started on the same day, and then we began to buy and trade this. And each day we had a little Superman trophy that I had gotten at Burger King. I bought a Happy Meal and it came with Superman. And so the Superman traveling trophy would go around to each of the students' desks, whoever was leading that day. And it didn't change hands every day, but it did change hands probably a dozen times over the course of, I think we did it for 5 weeks. But it was really interesting. It didn't get, these students didn't get as excited about it as I thought they would. But they did towards the end begin to get really competitive about it. And it gave us some good conversation fodder to have around why the blockchain is what it is. Like, yes, these are assets that trade for a certain value amount. They go up and down kind of based on people's emotions and maybe a little bit of fundamental information, but it began to get them thinking about this. And it was a fun exercise. I had a good time doing it. And so we used crypto and the blockchain and this currency to really kind of teach some lessons, some market conditions. I think this is going to be their future. And I'm hoping I'm giving them a little early education on this to say, we had a contest, or we had some, an idea of how could Gallup, where I work, how could Gallup use the blockchain? Realistically, we didn't get anywhere.
Why don't you call me up when you're doing these things?
I should have, Edward. I tell you what, next summer, we'll bring you in and you'll be my consultant on that one. I wanted to see if it was going to work, just to be honest. I wasn't quite sure where this would go. But it was an awesome opportunity to really work with these college and high school students to be able to just give them some education, right? I really feel like this is the future. We've got 50 years before this, as we ease into this thing. People, you say that, and then people look at you crazy. And when you look at the history of the United States and its monetary system, there were some times between 1800 and let's say 80, where the monetary system was super, super distributed, not centralized at all, in a freaking Wild West. Like every city you can buy on eBay, you can buy City of Omaha notes, bank notes that could only be transacted here in the city, right? Well, I mean, we begin to see some parallels to that and what's going on with crypto. It will consolidate, right? We can't support, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the market can't support the 2,000 coins that are out there today, realistically, can it?
So if we go to a world where, so the other thing we haven't even touched on, which we did touch on last time though, so somebody can go back and watch that if they want, but there's two main factors. One is the Lightning Network, and two are atomic swaps, which I won't go into too deep. But the idea that you can trade from one to another coin without ever noticing it is pretty cool. And that would make more sense where I have Edward coin, you have Jim coin, and I can send you it, and neither of us know what the difference is, right? We just know what the fair market value of a Edward coin is and a Jim coin is, and we trade at that rate. So I think those are things that we haven't even brought into the conversation, and I don't even know what time we're supposed to be done. But what was the winner of the contest? How many, what was their their portfolio value at the end?
Like 10,300. Yeah. Well, it was the market conditions were terrible. It was a race to the bottom. Like, this is when we started, when it was at, it was in the high sevens, and it went all the way down to six and some change. Okay. And that happened in the 3 weeks that we started this thing. I mean, it was all about keeping money. In fact, a few of the really smart ones didn't invest anything. Just sat and waited.
Well, that's probably why they weren't very excited about it. I mean, next year when it's all like 19, 20, like when their portfolios are going up and the numbers get bigger, then they'd probably be a lot more excited about it.
So. Well, it was interesting. There were some folks who were like, "Yeah, you're cheating by not investing," and I'm like, "Well, that's a strategy, guys. I'll be honest with you, it's a strategy." And it was led to one of those interesting conversations. Just because I gave you money, not real money, but just because I gave you money. And Nixon in the chat room was saying, "Oh, he wished it was real money." Well, in this case, pride actually filled in a lot for that, right? The pride of being the winner and having the Superman trophy on that meant something to them. And so anyways, the idea that I gave you money and you have to spend it in investing is it's a very real, like, just because you have it doesn't mean you should invest it. Timing is everything. And have you timed the market? Have you looked at the market? Do you understand its current conditions? For those who looked at the market and knew it was on a continual slide, well, you invest in on that. Now, I thought I timed it, and I bought some things that I thought were going to bounce pretty quick. I took the high risk. I just got crushed. That market, I got wiped out. I think there were 20 of us, and I think I was 15th.
Well, within a limited window, you kind of have to play with what you've got, and that might. Yeah,
it would be interesting now, and it's probably even worse on the Crypto Spaniard site, because I bought some stuff that has just gotten even continued pummeled. I was hoping for some other changes in the market. Let me see. Yeah, so I'm at 6,500 right now, which.
Nick's office is saying we should do he wants to play with real money, but why don't we do the average guy Crypto Spaniard?
Yeah, we could. Maybe that's something we'll start on. Just a little bit of personal pride, and everybody starts on the same day with a little bit, and
so you can't form. Everybody has to open you can't form it groups.
No, it's
like fantasy football type thing.
Not yet. At the time we started this, and maybe this is a chance for us to find a better simulator. I gave the kids that the actual high school or the college students that were leading the program had the challenge of the first 2 weeks of finding a platform that would work. And this was the best one we could find. One of my college students was like, "That's okay. I'll write a little Python script that'll scrape everybody's accounts every day to get their points." And then I'll build a leaderboard out of that'll be dropped into an email. And every day at 10 o'clock, we got a leaderboard update via email. That's cool. And it was cool. By doing that, he found some interesting email configurations for us that he was like, we should think about this, the way we got this configured. So it was, it was super cool. But it really gave him an opportunity to, think about that. I tell you what, if you're listening and you've got a platform that you want to pitch for a group, I would love to put together a little crypto group here. I'm not necessarily interested in real money, but it could be for pride. Maybe we'll have a traveling trophy of some kind that will make its way around on a monthly basis or something like that. The loser, if you lose the trophy, you got to mail it to the next guy, something like that. I don't know, a little pride in that. And send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Love to kind of think about these. It'd be great to have a platform of the leaderboard. Edward, you jump in on that, wouldn't you? If we did something like that,
I'd like to do it.
Yeah. No, it'd be a ton of fun.
Can you short on there?
Ooh, I don't think so.
If it's going down, I'd like to short some things.
Yeah. Hey, what we found, Mike Wieger and I, and with the help of this new Burst group, that we got some folks in Omaha that are part of this crypto community. And there's actually a pretty strong, and you might even know some of these guys and gals that are in it. You never know.
Maybe
that are in it. And we should probably, I was looking at meetup.com just here before the show, and there's actually there is a Omaha Bitcoin meetup group.
Yes.
That happens. So have you ever gone? Or you
yeah,
familiar?
I went, so I used to be more involved than I have been recently, but I did go the past Sunday that they met up. And so, yeah, it's, I mean, for a time there when the price was high, they said they were getting like 20 to 40 people. And, but it's certainly a chance to go and meet face to face with them folks that you can talk about things that they get where you're coming from and they know what you're talking about. And so, I mean, it's at Exarban, at Dudley's there every other Sunday. So yeah, you want to talk about altcoins and stuff like that, for sure they will talk about all that stuff with you. So
Nick's has got a good idea. Maybe because many of us are doing Burst, maybe we start a Burst pool where everybody, you submit 50 Burst. That's like a nickel. Yeah. Okay. But you put 50 Burst in a pool and everybody's competing like on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. And there's some payout where it pays out half to the monthly winner and the other half stays in the pool for
pay out for the winner at the end. Just keep it simple.
Yeah. Something it would be that would be a great system.
Yeah. How long would so you're saying we would keep it just an ongoing thing? I think we should have a window of like 3 months or something like that. A little longer than you had for your group, but we should, whoever has the
maybe 3 months. Yeah, no, I like it. We'll think about that. If you guys, if you got some ideas, send them to me, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Well, we are at our time, and it's like always, it's gotten dark behind you, which is always great. I'm still amazed you can do this from your deck. Second time in a row now that we've brought you in. You are the only podcaster I work with that does it successfully from their deck and smoke a cigar before the show even. Now I'm going to go out, like you got me hooked. I think after the show, I'm going to go out of my deck and smoke a cigar. No, that sounds pretty good. Edward, thanks. Did we miss anything? Anything else you want to throw in before we kind of wrap this thing up?
Nope. Just if you want to check out NebraskaMining.io, we'd love to have you mine with us. And otherwise, well, looking forward to the next time. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in on short notice. Mike had let me know he couldn't make it, and so I was shopping around a little bit, and I said, you know what, we haven't had Edward on. This would be a good time to have him back and get an update, and we'll talk about a few things in the post show. Remind everyone, if you're listening, first of all, if you came over from our Burst group, welcome. Glad to have you guys out here. We podcast every Thursday, and typically we'd be talking about PCs and phones and hard drives and things we put in our cars and home automation and kind of whatever's in the group. Many of you have been submitting things on the Facebook group. We get the conversation from there. I've captured those for this week. We'll move on to next week. Uyghur's back, and there's been lots of discussion about the price of SSD drives, Edward. The price is plummeting at this point on those things, and where 1 terabyte used to be super expensive, 150, $200 now for a 1 terabyte SSD, which is stupid crazy. Like it's just dumb, but it's super cool. And those are some of the conversations we have. Some questions about home automation came in. We'll cover those next week. So definitely come back. We won't talk crypto every week. Typically, we reserve that for the post show just because I know some of you aren't interested in the crypto conversation, but couldn't resist with Edward today. And so hopefully you've made it all the way to this point. Don't forget, if you want to financially support the show, you can do that as well. And a few of you have. I always appreciate those that are supporting the show through Patreon. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/Patreon or patreon.com/theaverageguy. TV, I think, or maybe The Average Guy. Get you there. Just head out to the site. You can get there. Easy to do. We actually do have I have a burst faucet option. If you need burst, I have a faucet option through Patreon. $1 gets you in. I'll give you some burst to get you started. It's just an easy way, a fun way to get folks involved. By the way, we make the post show available. We have a bunch of crypto, and we spend most of the time talking about burst, but that's available through the Patreon page. You don't have to be a Patreon subscriber, but it's all out there and available for if you want to do it. I want to remind you that the AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media hosting. So that means everything we do is hosted and paid for by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. And of course, that's Christian. We've been trying to get Christian back on Cyber Frontiers. Super busy with Amazon at the moment, but we'll get him back in. Plans start on Maple Grove. Full website, full media hosting, full podcasting stuff, $10 a month. Easy to do. He's doing a bang-up job there. Check it out, maplegrovepartners.com. And then don't forget that we are sponsored by LastPass. And, of course, the app is sponsored by them. And so if you want to listen to us live or on the road or one of those things, the app really works best. Easy way to do it. Available both on iTunes and Android. Head out to homegadgetgeeks.com. Super easy way. Page setup. Even my fat finger can get to it, and you can get it downloaded on your phone. Absolutely free. Good to have. Reached out to LastPass again to say, hey, you're going to sponsor us for the next year? We'll see how it goes. They've had a lot of changes over there at LastPass. We'll give them a shot. If not, our Patreon subscribers are going to support the app. So we'll be switching that over if they say no. But they've been good partners. And actually this week, if you were in the Facebook group, there was an offer. Typically LastPass is $24 a year. That gets you some options, including an option that to be able to set your account to give somebody else access to it if you pass away. Last week I talked about that. I had a family member pass away, and all your digital content, you got to protect that in some way, and you got to find a way to be able to pass that on, right? People have to get into your accounts. And so for the premium, that function is available. It was on sale for $6. So you could buy multiple years. I bought 2 years worth for $6. So normally 24, we got it for $6. That's in the Facebook group. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/theaverageguy. Get you there, whether you like Facebook or not. Join us over there. If that's the only place that you go, join us over there. We're live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv. We'll do a little post show until Edward gets too many mosquitoes on him. We'll do a bit of post show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. All right, if you're in the chat room, thanks for coming out. If you're listening to this, I don't know how much, Edward, how much time do we have with you? Do you need to go back and be a part of your family?
I didn't. No, we're good on time.
Okay.
I'm gonna go turn the light on though, real quick.
Yeah. Go ahead. If you've got this part, go ahead and run that. I'll run a. If you got this part, we are live now on Patreon. So thanks for coming over. A little bit of post show. If you missed it, maybe you go to listen to the post show before you listen to the live show. We did the whole show on crypto, and I don't know where we're going to go in the post show, or if we'll even put this out here. So. Thank you. Is it Curb? I'm having trouble seeing that. Thanks for the comment. Appreciate it. If you want to join us on Thursdays, you're welcome to do that. Fun community, a great way to kind of hang out, and it's good to be Ken. I got to tell you, Ken has kind of been the bridge here. He's been a long time listener, and it kind of got me into the burst area, and then said, hey, we got to see if we find some folks in that group that want to jump over here. So if you jumped over from our burst group, welcome. Glad to have you over here. Where I'm in the Discord group as well. I don't talk all that much, but we've got some. I'm actually burst. No, I'm not. I'm actually plotting right now as we speak. I plotted some drives with a whole bunch of multiple files, like 90, and it was more efficient to get those down into more like 6. So we've been running those off our GPU mining. So the cigar's lit up again. Gosh.
So storage. So you're telling me about storage.
Oh,
yeah. So give us something on storage, and then also on Burstcoin is not the same as storage though, because you can't store your files.
Right. Yeah. So 2 storage offerings. We've talked about this before. Storage or Storj, right? STORJ. That's storage.
Mm-hmm.
And they are in the full. They've gone through 2 versions now of their platform built on the blockchain for storage. Actually, they want to disrupt Amazon, Azure, Google. That's kind of their plan with the blockchain there. They are rewriting and on version 3. So they've essentially shut everything off for taking new customers and said, we'll be ready to field test version 3 in, I don't know, another month or 2 maybe. And they've asked for some beta testers, for folks that want to come out and do it early. So who knows? Again, I'm not in it. I'm in it because it's interesting. Like I honestly don't think it's going to work, but it's an interesting idea, and so it keeps me by hosting a little bit of storage. It keeps me kind of in it and thinking about it. I've probably earned 100 storage coins, which are worth, I don't know, $20 maybe, something like that. Not a lot, 20, $30. Who knows where that thing's going to go? SIA, SIA, or SIA, depending upon what part of the country you live in, is another one of those. That thing is a mess. They actually haven't developed anything in a while, and it's kind of sitting just in limbo. That hasn't been very efficient. They've had some problems with that. Those groups have kind of come and go. The Discord is kind of dying. So who knows where that'll go? It's another storage offering, right? Same type of deal. That coin is worth less than a penny at this point. So, it's weird because those coins, like, are you using to buy storage, or are you trying to buy and trade them? And there's no advantage if they go up in price. That actually hurts the platform, right? So for now, I hold a bunch of coin, and maybe I can get some cheap storage, someday out of the deal. So those are the 2 storage coins. Both of them are in massive retooling mode, and they're doing a lot of self evaluation, or what would you say, right? Internal kind of, So they're really contemplating. So there we go. They're soul searching. That's what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. Burst, on the other hand, is at least from what I've seen in the work I've done, very thriving communities. The communities are better than the coin. The coin's at a penny right now. It's been as high as 12 cents. So it's moved around. Although that was maybe for 10 seconds one day. It really, where most people would have sold is at that 9 or 10 cents range. And that's when I first started getting into Burst. So great communities. This current pool that we're in is a lot of fun. 115 miners or so, about 6.5 petabytes of storage thrown at this, right? You plot files that then are read to solve the blockchain to be able to do that. And you can't use those drives for storage or any of those things. Low power, though. You can be a low power solution. I've got a bunch of external drives that just don't take up very much power. They spin about every 3 minutes for about 20 seconds, right? So pretty low. So that's the one I'm engaged in most right now is Burst.
How do you tell they're spinning?
The lights come on.
Oh,
the drives. All right. Yeah. And in the miner, you see it, the blockchain is exposed, right? The blockchain pops out. Everybody's submitting deadlines for it, just like GPU mining. And then the quickest one wins, and then the block is solved, and they moved on to the next one. Or forged is the right word. The block is forged, and then they move on. And so it's been fun. One of the things, Edward, for me, that's been really satisfying is working with Ken to get my drives optimized. And yeah, they were okay the way they were before, but we were able to shave seconds off of them, their run times on those. So speed matters in a lot of ways. The pools have limits of 20 or 40 seconds, kind of based on when they'll accept a deadline. And so there's optimizations, and you can kind of geek out on this stuff and replot and strategize. And the interesting thing is I get all this stuff set up, and then I get super bored. I'm going to break something or this week. I'm like, because I'm nearly caught up with all my drives. They're all plotted to. Even Burst has gone through. You know, they forked. I don't know, 2 months ago maybe, onto a version 2, and you had to have your drives plotted with a certain format for it to work on the second version. And so I spent a whole bunch of time, fixing things and converting things. It was a ton of fun. And when it was over,
so what is plotting exactly?
Plotting is just writing a file to a drive. It's creating nonces is what it is. Yeah, you're creating those nonces. So instead of the GPUs generating the nonces and submitting them, you have them pre-plotted on your drives. And so the block is exposed. Everybody submits. It finds the fastest deadline, forges the block.
Got it.
That's super simple terms. It's way more complicated than that. But you get where I'm going with that. So,
and CyberSkulls beat me to it, but he mentioned Filecoin and IPFS, and we've mentioned that on the podcast before. But I think that, like you talked about, both of Storage and SIA are in bad places right now, and so I think IPFS and Filecoin do seem to be have some promise and some potentially.
I looked at Filecoin, and I think when I did, they were still in a beta, or they weren't accepting, or something along those lines. It's probably one I need to go back to. I think MadeSafe is another one of those. I think I have that name right.
Yeah, I think it made, as far as like where they are in their proof of concept or whatever, I think it MadeSafe more as a storage or a SIA than a. I think.
Yeah, they're all that way. There's I don't know of another coin like Burst where you're not necessarily storing data. You're storing nonces.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. And so I don't know. CyberSkull says he agrees, a tough market to enter, but when you compare to Amazon, Google, Azure, or Backblaze, the market potential is huge. And I really do think the market that is there is probably for residential backup, more of a Backblaze than a Google. Just companies today are not going to move their storage for the most part. You're not going to have Fortune 500 moving onto blockchain-based any of these services. It's not going to happen. So the market that's going to initially is going to have to be disrupted is how do I help people back up their systems? Like, how do I get my files backed up? That's where I think the opportunity is in residential.
Is it price though? Is that the only angle in? Or is it privacy? Like, you don't want Amazon and you don't want your stuff on Amazon and Google?
It could be. Most Fortune 500 want their data. They need somebody accountable. Like,
I mean residential. Sorry,
but residential, they don't. I don't think they care as much. And so I think you get that ability to be the security play. Like, hey. But there's people that want that. I think it is it could be a cost play. In other words, today I have 1.5 terabytes of backup of podcasting stuff that sits on Backblaze, right? It sits on my Moro drive that syncs with Backblaze. I'm paying $8 to $10 a month, which isn't terrible, but if I could do it for $3 or $4 a month, and it was, I don't care if it's distributed, I don't care if it's on the blockchain. Does it work? Right. Can I get it back?
Yeah.
If I could do it cheaper, I might. To be honest with you, I might do it there as well as a backup. So I'd move it on to a service, like if it was that cheap, I'd move it on to a service like that. And if I could mine the coin to pay for it, hey, that would be even better, right? So that's where I think. And Ken, thanks for coming out tonight. I appreciate it, man, and thanks for all your help. Ken's been a big help to me. I think that's where it's probably. I think that's probably where it's at. Is in it would need to start residentially. Edward, we've seen this play before, though. LaCie has tried to do this. They're a hard drive company. LaCie tried to do it, and it was a different day. It was a crowd based, or I would share 2 terabytes and I would get 1 terabyte back of cloud storage, and they would shard this data and send it around, and it was crowd and cloud based, and it just didn't work. Like they were like, people were like, I don't know if do I really want to trust my files over there, even though they were encrypted, 128-bit or whatever.
I mean the whole MySpace versus Facebook. MySpace failed and Facebook took off. I mean, so it could be a generational thing as well there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, storage is an interesting thing. And, what will it take and at what point will there be a tipping point? And I think we're getting closer with people's pictures and videos and some of those kinds of things. Although it's just super ridiculously convenient to put it on Amazon or to put it in Google, take the pictures, automatically move them up. They've made it pretty easy. And people look at pictures and they're like, okay, like, do I really care if Google is looking at these?
Yeah.
Sure. Some do. So yeah, I don't know. I know this. I want to stay close to it because storage is my thing. And so I won't stay close to it if I'm not doing it. I need to be actively involved in it. And, much like mining with GPUs, I want to turn those on every once in a while and see where the market is. I want to, I've got a little bit in Bitcoin that keeps me interested in it.
And two things is one, like with Let's See, where they had this weird, maybe a little bit backwards of 2 gigs or 2 terabytes for 1 terabyte or whatever the offer was. Like you can use something like IPFS or file IPFS, and then you could choose to go the route of, do I want to pay off my IPFS using the incentivization of something like a Filecoin. So you choose whether you want to take the incentive or not, versus them trying to force some sort of structured plan on top of you. And IPFS may or may not be they may provide the backend for a service like a Backblaze, where Backblaze somebody like Backblaze says, I don't want to build all these servers and all this infrastructure. I just want to build the front end, and then they use really cheap IPFS storage and secure IPFS storage. And so you wouldn't even necessarily know you're dealing with IPFS. You're dealing with some company called Backblaze or their competitor or something like that. So.
Right on. Edward, the struggle has been, as I've seen my own, is I've tried to be a host or a node on this. And I have tried to do everything I can to have that 100% uptime. And no matter what I do, I have everything on solid UPS. I have shut off all Windows updates. I have, I've done these things. It still seems like, I can't keep a server running, 100% or even 99.999% of the time, whatever that is. And some of these services, if they've got to account for that, right? It has to allow me to be down certain periods of the time. So it has been an interesting, you don't realize how unstable your PCs are until you are monitoring or you're incented.
Yeah. And the same goes for mining too, is that going back to what you asked earlier about buying versus averaging in versus by buying, or averaging in versus mining. Mining, the problem is you need that 100% uptime to make it worthwhile. And if you just buy, you buy and you're done and move on with your life. And so any downtime can really eat into your profits in the mining scenario.
Yeah, well, because I'm not setting up redundant servers here in the house. I'm not going to do that. I've got one I want to throw at it, and chances are it's going to go down, and it's always going to go down. I leave for work at, say 7:30 in the morning. It's always going to go down at 7:32, right? You can't, nobody's at home and you can't get it back up, or, hey, I call my daughter, hey, can you go down there? And she can't pick it up. That's no way to provide backups.
Yeah.
And so, I'm a little skeptical that even with the blockchain running it, that you can keep redundant, available backup storage distributed, crowdsourced. I'm super skeptical that's even possible.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know the solution for that, but I mean, is blockchain the solution for storage then? But it doesn't mean it's not for other things, but what are those industries or what are those niches that it's best suited for? Financial services or logistics or whatever those other things are then.
Yeah. Well, and there's even some concern, in about when we think about being a node or being a wallet or being something on the blockchain, like, okay, so I'm now I'm going to be this node that's going to provide some resiliency to this particular blockchain. because the premise of it is that we've got thousands or tens of thousands of these things running, and then I can't keep it on all the time. Is that really helping the blockchain? If I have to, if that thing reboots and the wallet doesn't restart automatically, or because today it doesn't. Like I really can't, and you got to do some finagling to make it work. And it's kind of like that's another thing. It kind of worries me when I think about this. Like, okay, is this if they're dependent on me, the blockchain is screwed. Like I just can't keep things running long enough to, in my opinion, right? And I'm being a little facetious, right? But it's one of those deals where I have a little doubt because I've watched all these things. I said before, I'm having trouble getting a Burst wallet running on anything right now. And it's like, okay, if that's a problem, like, and I watch the Discords and other people are having problems too. And you're like, okay, is this robust enough that like we need these things to be running? And they're not. So,
I think you should watch the video again. I think you just tried to wave away my smoke with you. I think you did this when I had smoke.
Oh, was I wavering?
No, you like tried to wave with your hand. You tried to wave away the smoke out of it.
No. Okay. I had a gnat down here that has been flying around my face all night, and we get, for whatever reason, in the summer, we get these. We leave one banana out, and then we cannot get rid of the gnats until winter comes.
But I think so. Yeah, I mean something with, again, something more with a little more mature like Bitcoin, where they don't have, there's plenty, which may still be a relatively small number. There's plenty of nodes out there, plenty of miners right there, and it's not trying to serve a maybe a square hole, round peg, square hole scenario like storage, something like, I don't think that the concerns you have that you're describing with Burst Coin necessarily tie over to something like a Bitcoin, which, might is a little more mature.
No, true. Well, but it's one thing, it's one coin that's been around for 9 years.
Right.
Right. And so, you kind of go, some of these others I think are going to need to have that same kind of value. It's also worth $7,000 and not a penny. So, it's a little bit, you have a little different motivations at that price.
Yep.
Than you would.
And willingness to invest in infrastructure as well.
Yeah. Right on. And it gets the attention of the big boys who are going to make sure that they have redundant systems and, those kinds of pieces kind of going in. So yeah, that's a good update. Thanks for asking that. We hadn't gone through all those options in a while. The community here has heard me talk about them. Storage, Saya, still have wallets for both running. I'm watching the storage get less and less and less and less. And I'm going to start taking, as they go to zero, I'm going to start taking those nodes off and reconfigure for V3 coming. I'll probably use, I created 6 nodes because there was an advantage to having more nodes than less. In V3, that's not incented anymore. One node is fine. You get one node, fill it up, then create another node at that point. And so I'll probably burn those down, start with new software, allow that to come back up.
I'm sad about Saya. That was the first altcoin I ever bought. So
really, yeah. It's
sentimental attachment.
It's in terrible shape right now. I think it's 0.8 of a cent. And boy, the communities have gotten real quiet on that. It may not be bad. I know they hired a bunch of people and they've been doing a bunch of development, and it could be they're just being, they're just busy. And hey, that may be a good $50 investment right now to pick up more. I have plenty. Like, it's one of those kinds of things. We mined a bunch of it when it was still mineable. A6 came in and ruined all that. Like, you can't. It's unmineable at this point for the average guy. But we mined a bunch when it was still mineable, so it just sits in a wallet, and we'll kind of see. We'll kind of see what happens to it. It doesn't hurt me to just leave it in the wallet, right?
I should say it was the first one I bought when I actually knew what I was doing. I had bought some back in the day when I just was buying.
Why did you buy it? Why Saya?
I was talking to somebody and they mentioned it, and I listened to them. So it's just kind of on a whim. So
yeah. Well, it's only been a year. It was about a year ago it was about 2 years ago I had you on and we started talking about this, maybe 2.5 now. And then about a year ago, Mike and I I think we picked up Saya for the very first time, and like, hey, maybe we should try this thing out. And then, hey, did you look at storage? And we started doing that. And then we bought a bunch of GPUs and we started mining, and mining pool hub. And then we moved over to I think we started with NiceHash, then moved on to mining pool hub, and then back to NiceHash, and then everything went to hell at NiceHash, in their hack. And it's been an interesting year, but it has kept me very, very close to what's going on. And close. I don't look at you like a deer in the headlights anymore when you're talking about this stuff.
Yeah. You know all about it now. And I wish I had better news about the price, but I don't know if it'll. My only hope is that it'll have the end of the year rally, and maybe some people could trade out and make some profits at the end of the year if it does that. So
we thought maybe there would be a mid-year rally, because the last 2 or 3 years there's been a mid-year and a post, mid-year and end of year rallies, right? And so everybody was like putting charts out. No, it's coming in June. It's coming in June. This is can't miss, because it's the last 3 Junes. It's coming in June. That's all I heard in the groups. It's coming in June. Just don't worry. It's coming. It has to.
But there was, I'm sure Nick's ops or whoever, he's gone now, but I keep telling myself there was that time when it went from 1,200 down to 800 down to 200. That was a much longer lull or downturn than I would have liked. And so we've gone through 2-year long, crappy times before. And so this could be another 2-year drought. And then we see some action again.
Yeah.
So that's what I just keep telling myself.
No, hey, it doesn't, you may be more than me, but it doesn't hurt me to just wait this thing out. In fact, like you said, I should probably be putting a little cash in, dollar cost into this. Again, that doesn't hurt unless it completely goes under, right?
You're gonna be same thing as what happened when we started talking about 2000 or whatever. You're gonna say, "Oh, I should have been averaging in because it's at 6,000 now." And
I should have been doing it when it was 264. That's kills me. I go back and listen to that podcast and I just cry. I'm like, what was I thinking? And then it went over 1,000. And I remember I think I called you crazy at one point. I'm like, Edward, seriously, this is as high as it can go. Like, because we just had you on at 260, and in 6 or 8 months it had gone up to 1,000. And Uyghur was smart enough to get in, and he took it from 1,000 to 3 and did really, really well in that space. And then it went nuts, right? That was the end of the year last year. So
at some point you'll start in. So start.
Well, if you're listening live, we're going to wrap up post-show conversation so we can get this done. I can get Edward back in that. Have the mosquitoes been very bad for you out there?
Not since I was my cigar again. But they were biting before that. Okay.
Well, I appreciate you taking one for the team. If you're listening live, thanks for coming out tonight. And for those of you guys who came over from the Discord group, welcome. You're welcome to come out here on Thursdays and join us. Again, we only do Bitcoin, or we only do crypto in the post show. But if you want to come out and nerd out with us, you can do that. We've got all kinds of other topics that we do. We'll see you guys back here next Thursday. Uyghur is back. We'll see you.